And after those allegations by the UDA presidential candidate, Deputy President William Ruto, we are tonight speaking with Karanja Kibisho, who is the Interior Principal Secretary. Thank you very much for joining us here on the program tonight. It's great to have you.
Good evening.
Good evening. The UDA presidential candidate is claiming that the Nakuru State Lodge meeting, that is where a plot was hatched or discussed. What took place at this meeting and what were the issues that were discussed as you respond to the allegations by the DP?
First, let me say, it is good when you hold a position as big as the Deputy President of a country. Try at least, persuade yourself to be truthful. It's honest. It's the honorable thing to do. Even the last time my foot stepped in Nakuru could be 2 years ago. That's a fact. And it is very shameful for a deputy president to even imagine that we were in Nakuru plotting anything.
So, Bwana PS, did the meeting happen at the Nakuru State Lodge?
I don't know, because I wasn't there. Okay. But obviously the way he's speaking as if we were there, planning things. I put it to you, the last time I stepped in Nakuru, Karanja Kibisho, is more than 2 years ago. And it is shameful, I repeat, for a deputy president to lie in front of cameras on a grave thing like this one.
All right, let's talk about Harambee House that has featured rather prominently in the DP's campaigns, particularly in his allegations. And he blames you, Bwana PS, and your CS for leading an operation to frustrate his bid, to scuttle his numbers and influence the presidential outcome. Are you doing this?
You know, these are masters of reverse psychology. We have been meeting our chiefs in 2017, in 2018, 2019, all the way to 2020. I just educate you a bit about the security structure in this country. Our national government administration officers, from the assistant chief all the way to regional commissioner, are the chairs of the security committees in their jurisdiction, all of them. We are having an election whose temperatures are high. Everyone knows that. What irresponsible PS and CS would we be that we don't care to even check what is happening on the ground in an election like this one? I think we need to be given a break and be allowed to do our work, because we do not meet them in the forests. We do not meet them in darkness. We meet them in open places for security briefings. And at the end of each of these meetings that we have had, we will always brief media. And it is not closed meetings. It is so shameful what the Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate is alleging. Even if it is seeking sympathy from Kenyans, there are better ways to do it. There are better ways to do it than to character assassinate people, try to intimidate government officials. Today we have had our regional commissioner named. Yeah. We have had our county commissioners named. Yeah. We have had even our deputy county commissioners named. We are seeing our chiefs being harassed on social media by everybody. It's a shame for this country that we can stoop this low. We must allow the government officers to do their work, and we shall do our work. Our work is to ensure that there is security around this election, that all Kenyans are secure. We have heard there are Kenyans who are starting to flee their homes. It is our work to ensure that those Kenyans enjoy rights that every Kenyan should enjoy in this country. Yeah, and while we are doing that, if there is anyone who gets annoyed around it, we are sorry. We will do our work. Our work given by executive order of 2018 is to ensure that we provide security to every citizen in this country. It is true that there are Kenyans now who are panicking. Today I had an opportunity to receive calls when I was doing an interview somewhere from Kenyans, and their worst fear is what will happen on 9th. That's their worst fear.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a little bit, particularly, in certain areas where there have been leaflets that have been found, and we're aware that, 8 people have been arrested with regards to, the distribution of these leaflets that are supposedly warning members of certain communities there. What more can you tell us about the arrests that have been made with respect to these leaflets in Rift Valley?
More arrests are following, not just the 8, because these campaigns didn't just start 1 week ago when these leaflets started showing up. These campaigns started a long time ago. People have campaigned. People campaigned in 2017. People campaigned in 2013. People have campaigned every 5 years. One should wonder, why should these leaflets just come out immediately after the deputy president gave some irresponsible utterances around cohesiveness of people in the Rift Valley? That should concern us. And I think they cannot escape from this one. And I am assuring you, the people who are in our custody are helping us with the investigation. So we cannot be reckless about security of this country by calling press conferences and trying even to cry. We are more serious than this. We are more serious than this, Yvonne. We are talking about protecting the lives of Kenyans. Kenyans are calling. Kenyans are fleeing. There is a lady who called me this morning who has transferred her children from Nakuru to Kipipiri because she is fearing that this child has no future in Nakuru because of political incitement that is coming just because there will be an election.
And I want to give you a chance to respond to some of the allegations, particularly around the leaflets. There is allegations, at least from that side of the political divide, that these leaflets have been prepared and distributed by government officials and that the National Intelligence Service is somehow involved. What do you say of these allegations that have been leveled against government officials?
You know, they are as useless as they come because, ask yourself, Yvonne, we are mandated to ensure that we provide security to Kenyans across this country. What motivation would government have to then cause panic in Kenyans? To achieve what?
They say you're trying to scuttle the election in favor of Raila Odinga.
How do you scuttle election in favor of Raila Odinga? By spreading leaflets. How does the numbers add if people flee?
They're talking about voter suppression.
You know, some of these things that people talk about sound fancy, excite crowds, but have they thought about them? Because as a government, it is in our interest, because we are in a trajectory of growth in this country. President Uhuru Kenyatta has invested every ounce of his energy and blood to ensure that this country takes on a trajectory of growth, pulling us from a lower income economy to a middle income economy. What interest would he have to destroy that? You know, we need to ask ourselves what would be the motivation. But I want to put it to you here, because then it's their word against ours. We have not participated in distributing or authoring those. The people who have authored them, who have connection with them, are in our custody, and they are being interrogated, and we shall get to the bottom of it. We shall get to know who is the mastermind in this before long.
Dr. William Ruto is, whilst he is a presidential candidate on a UDA ticket, is still the serving Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Does he have, or do there exist internal back channels, to convey some of these concerns he has with colleagues in government, including your CS and yourself? And has he actually approached you using those back channels?
You see, government is a very structured system, very, very, very structured. And I feel sad that today I'm here, Yvonne, to defend myself against allegation of a deputy president of a country. If you look at the hierarchy of government, a PS is very far from a deputy president. You know, when you start with the head of state, by the time you get to a PS, it shouldn't be anyone of concern to the person of a deputy president. All along, some of us have respected that space because we understand government. But when he stoops too low to even start dragging county commissioners into his speeches, then we have lost it as a country. The government is so structured. The deputy president of this country is a member of the National Security Council, where these matters are discussed. The deputy president of this country is my boss. He places a call, asks a question. I have an obligation to answer.
Has he done that?
He hasn't done that. He hasn't called me. He hasn't called my CS, I can assure you. He hasn't called the DG. He hasn't called the Inspector General of Police. He has preferred to call media. And I think the less we say about that irresponsibility, the better.
As we come to the conclusion of this conversation tonight, I just want to ask you about the general arrangements that have been made, by the security machinery in this country to ensure that the elections are conducted in a, peaceful environment. And you had talked about certain people who'd called you and expressed fears of their security either on voting day or what happens thereafter. What's your message to people tonight who are concerned, and what sort of security preparations have been put in place? And are there any areas you expect, any violence or, areas that are of concern to you at the ministry?
Let me, first of all, and I'll continue whenever I get this opportunity to say, the Ministry of Interior does not conduct elections. Elections are conducted by the IEBC. That must always be clear. But IEBC requires a lot of support from other institutions to succeed. And one of the institutions that IEBC requires is the National Police Service. IEBC, to conduct this election in their polling centers, which are 46,200, plus other areas, tallying centers, require roughly about 70,000 plus police officers. In this country, we have 105,000 police officers. Apart from guarding the activity of voting, the rest of the country requires security too. And what the Inspector General of Police did 2 weeks ago was to then gather support of other security institutions, for example, the prisons, KWS, Kenya Forestry Service, the NYS, and gazetted all of them in Kenya Gazette some time back, deploying them to specific areas where, one, the IEBC has recommended certain level of deployment, and number two, where we as the Ministry of Interior feel there is a threat of violence, and therefore the deployment in each of these areas is not equal. We have a place where we have more security deployment, and we have a place where we have, because in terms of our traffic lights is a green, we do not need to heavily deploy. But remember, apart from the polling center, the rest of the country, 400 meters from that polling center, we require the general duty security officers to be at hand to help any security situation that may arise. And what I can assure Kenyans today, 2022, the chance of anyone succeeding in causing anarchy in this country is near zero, because we are ready. We have prepared ourselves for the last 1 year. We have the equipment to combat any form of lawlessness, and we have enough personnel to do it. And I think over the last 1 week, when the deployment has started, remember, the security requirement of guarding a voting area is very different from guarding a bank or guarding your home. Yeah. And therefore, IEBC has taken it as a responsibility to train the police officers who will be at the polling centers so that they can be conversant with the process of voting and can be able to identify violation because they are already trained. That has already happened, and those officers who have been trained have been deployed in their good numbers. Okay. And remember, there has been a lot of mapping that has been done in this country by a number of institutions. We have done as a Ministry of Interior. National Intelligence Service has done its own. There is mapping that has been done by the NCIC, and all of this we look at, and then they inform what kind of deployment do we do. As we speak, we are still doing more and more evaluation. Okay. When situations change, we deploy more.
Okay. Thank you very much, Karanja Kibicho, the Principal Secretary at the Ministry of Interior, for joining us tonight, speaking to those allegations that have been made and, of course, the security preparations ahead of the election that's just 4 days away.
Thank you very much, and I hope you'll avail yourself to vote that day.
Certainly.
At 6 a.m.
I hope you will too.
I will vote at 6 a.m.
Good.
in Kirinyaga.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here with us.
All right.